Welcome to our show, The Physics of Fiction, where science and art collide. We often think of art and science as opposites. One deals in facts, the other in feelings. One seeks truth, the other tells stories. But maybe that's a false divide. What if science and art aren't so vastly different, but rather fields that share a symbiotic relationship? Two languages asking the same questions. What is out there? Who are we? What comes next? There may be a science to art and an art to science. Creativity is as essential to the scientific process as it is to the artistic method. Artists and scientists share a curiosity for the unknown, an appreciation for the beauty of the worlds they explore, and an interest in creating something new. Researchers at the UCLA Johnson Comprehensive Cancer Center discuss the parallels between art and science and the sometimes unexpected intersections between the two pursuits.
A lot of what we do in the lab involves really artistic ways of creating beautiful images, using very high-resolution microscopes to come up with answers to very difficult questions, often at a cellular level or even at a molecular level. And so many of those images are really beautiful art within itself.
You know, you can't become a great artist or a transformational artist without being a really good sculptor, really good drawer, and a really good painter. Artists like Dali and Picasso were fundamentally very sound, and only because they were fundamentally sound could they make contributions and drive art forward. It's the same thing in science.
Because what you're doing here is you're trying to find something new that doesn't currently exist, which means that you have to create it from the beginning. And whether it's art and creating a picture, or whether it's science and creating a new model for how a disease works, and ultimately a new model that'll help us find a therapy for patients, we still have to create from the beginning something new.
Creativity is essential to research. Answers come from a place you don't always recognize. It isn't like you're just working it out in a rational framework. I'm not a musician or a painter, but my understanding is that there's also something that moves them from outside of their rational consciousness. And it may be a similar impulse that is happening in the research mind as well.
Just as our imagination has fueled art by imagining new worlds, technologies, and ways of being, fiction also inspires real-world innovation in science, design, technology, and even social systems. Before the submarine existed, French novelist, poet, and playwright Jules Verne imagined it in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Before the first satellite, English science fiction writer, futurist, inventor, and explorer Sir Arthur Charles Clarke envisioned it. Fiction doesn't just reflect reality, it shapes it. Dr. Paul Halpern, an American physicist and author, explores the interplay between science and fiction. He discusses how concepts such as black holes and wormholes, once purely theoretical, have been vividly depicted in literature and film.
Movies and science fiction stories play with these ideas because it represents the unknown. And so, for example, black holes were proposed around 1970. Very soon thereafter, Disney played with the idea and speculated about what would be inside the interior of an event horizon. And that ended up with being very strange stuff, like imagining a hellscape inside the event horizon where you would be judged for your sins and so forth. Something certainly not having anything to do with physics, but a sort of a fun story.
Such portrayals not only fuel public imagination, but also inspire new questions and directions in scientific inquiry. Lisa Rosenberg, an American artist and author, delves into the rich interplay between scientific inquiry and poetic imagination. She emphasizes that both science and poetry involve processes of discovery requiring observation, pattern recognition, and the courage to embrace uncertainty. She illustrates how poetic language can capture the nuances of scientific concepts, making them more accessible and emotionally resonant. Creativity and analytical thinking are not mutually exclusive. They are in fact complementary avenues for exploring the mysteries of the universe.
We know from current conversations, ongoing investigations, that poetry and physics, specifically art and science more broadly, are these exquisite ways of describing and gaining understanding about this nonlinear universe, our very cyclical world. And they offer the opportunity to be in something other than our ingrained ways of thinking and working. So the more we can use those invitations to think differently than we normally think, whether it's outside of our discipline or outside of our habits, the more we do have access to the processes that put us in discovery mode. Poetry is a lab in part because of the kinds of problem solving that it has, that it offers. Like physics, it requires us to move fluidly between the micro, the macro, and the meta.
Art and science are both creative fields that explore new ideas and break boundaries. Both scientists and artists rely on intuition, curiosity, pattern recognition, and risk-taking to learn about the world around us. Through science or art, we seek the same things: meaning, beauty, and truth.
Art and architecture and scientific illustration, they were all part of the same process of trying to discover and explain the world around us.
Nature holds the precision of science and the beauty of art. It inspires both discovery and creativity as reflected in the voices of scientists and artists alike.
The natural world is a source of inspiration for any human being on this planet.
As creative as an artist can be, you can't top the creativity in nature.
Whether you paint galaxies on canvas or map them with telescopes, compose music or decode the laws of physics, you're part of the same quest to understand this vast, expanding universe we call home. As Dr. Albert Einstein, vegetarian, said, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all science." In the end, both artists and scientists are explorers of the unknown. Each discovery, whether through a brushstroke or a breakthrough, brings us closer to understanding the universe and ourselves. Art and science are not opposites, but reflections of the same human spirit, driven by wonder, imagination, and a desire to make meaning of the world around us. May we continue to ask boldly, dream deeply, and pursue the mysteries that move and inspire us. Treasured viewers, we are grateful for your company today for the Physics of Fiction, where science and art collide.